Hey guys, welcome back to some more reviews, and today I'm going to be doing a discussion video. Another one of those why I love videos. I've been on a roll lately doing these, and I like doing them. They're fun. Get to turn the camera on and kind of just say whatever comes out to the camera and not really have a format, just kind of discuss and have a free discussion about these movies. And also, I really, really love the feedback from you guys. I want to hear you guys' thoughts on these films. If you have any, thoughts or things you want to put in the comments, definitely do that. This is all about discussion. And the other day, I was thinking about the Silent Hill franchise because I really love the franchise. I've played the first game, the second game, the third and fourth game. I've played a little bit of Homecoming. I've seen the movies, and I'm just a really big fan of this universe. And I remember when the whole PT thing was going on, when they had the new Silent Hills that was being made, I believe back in 2014, and the project got canceled, which I thought sucked because they released that PT demo, which those don't know what PT was. PT was this playable trailer, this demo to kind of show the graphics off and show the engine off and show how this game was going to run. It's going to be a new Silent Hill game, and I believe Norman Reedus was going to be starring as the lead character in Silent Hills, this new game. But it got canceled. I think it got canceled because they wanted to do Metal Gear Solid game instead, which I thought was bizarre because I always figured, there is a big Metal Gear fan base, but I always figured Silent Hill was like that go-to thing with, I think the company is Konami or something. It was just a bizarre choice to go with Metal Gear over Silent Hill, especially they made more Metal Gear games more often than Silent Hill games, so it would have made probably more money and gotten more hype behind the new Silent Hill. I don't know, that's whatever, that's a discussion for another day. But I was, watching gameplay of the Silent Hill games. I was watching discussion videos about Silent Hill. And it made me want to get on here and discuss another underrated film with you guys that I feel like still to this day doesn't get enough respect. And despite the little issues I have with it, and it's just little stuff here and there, I think this is one of the best video game adaptations of all time, and that is 2006's Silent Hill. Now, this movie, I remember this came out, and I went to the theaters and seen this way back in 2006. Definitely frightened me back then. I was probably pretty young to be seeing this movie, but I still loved it back then, and I was a huge, huge fan of Silent Hill. Silent Hill 2, to me, is at least in my top 5 favorite video games of all time. Like, the connection that I had to Silent Hill 2 is so strong. That game's atmosphere, music, soundtrack, the ideas that game brought to the table. I'm going to try not to say movie when talking about Silent Hill 2, but I get that whole mixed up, movies and games. But Silent Hill 2 was just a game that when I was a kid, it was one of the first games I played on PlayStation 2, and it just chilled me to the bone. It was an example of a game that can do that atmosphere, that ambiance, that taking its time with the scares and the story. And it was a very patient horror video game. And I wish more games could be like that. More about the environment and the sound effects and, these weird-ass creatures that they encounter in the game. And also that James is a good lead in that game. And I like the story of it. It just altogether a great game. And then I didn't play Silent Hill 3 till later on, but I did play Silent Hill 4 The Room a lot when I was a kid too. And I love that game, I still do, but I remember back then not being able to get too far in it because it is a hard game. You play that game, you're going to tear your hair out. You're not going to have any hair left. See these bangs? This wouldn't be here if I was playing Silent Hill 4. I'd just be a bald guy coming on the screen like, "What's up, guys? Welcome to my review of Silent Hill 4. No, I'm just playing. I love Silent Hill 4. I love it. It's great. It's just really stressful. That game is so hard and difficult to play that like I said, man, you ain't gonna have these luscious bangs when you playing it. You're just gonna be ripping them out, But It's a very difficult game, but that game does nail a good story and atmosphere. And when this came out, I was stoked because I was already a huge fan of Silent Hill. And the fact that they were making a movie and it was being made by a good studio, Sony, I think, made this movie. TriStar, Sony. Guess they both kind of worked on it. I seen the trailers for it, and it looked a lot like the games, and I don't know, I was just really excited for it. I went to go see it in the theater, and it was a fun experience. And this movie still holds up to me. It's a hell of a lot better than Revelation. Revelation to me has aged horribly. That movie looks really bad, and it's got a horrible plot. I will give this movie, before I get into the positives, because there's a lot of positives to discuss, I will give people's points credit with this. Number one, the fact that the lead character in this movie, I want to say, yeah, her name is Rose, and she's played by Rhoda Mitchell. And I felt like it should have been more of her and this cop by themselves in Silent Hill. I would love that, because I feel like they run into a lot of people in Silent Hill. And Silent Hill was never about running into people. It was about running into key characters here and there, especially in Silent Hill 2 and 4. You had key characters, spread out throughout the game. But you weren't finding these groups of people in Silent Hill. It happens in this movie. I don't like that. I wish it was more isolated. Like, I don't mind her running into the cop character. I really don't. And I think that was a chick from The Walking Dead. I think it's Andrea from The Walking Dead. But, I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't have been bad if it was her looking for her daughter in Silent Hill by herself, figuring everything out by herself, not having these other people. They're not having this whole cult thing going on. Because I felt like it was from a different movie. Because it really did. That whole part, too, the whole cult aspect of them being in this church. And, oh, that's where the siren comes from. And that's where these people have all been. They're all in this church in the center of the town. I didn't like that. Because it made it to where, okay, the mystery aspect was gone. That's where everybody was at. That's where the siren was coming from. And I thought it was a really stupid part of the story, because it followed the game pretty close as far as getting the backstory to the creepy little girl that was in the first game. I don't remember her name. Is it Alessa? I think it was Alessa, but it's the creepy origin story from the first game. It gets redone in here. But I just don't like the fact that not everybody in the town is wiped out, because they should be. I mean, this character, the evil little girl, in the game, I believe, just kill off everybody. But in the movie, it's that the rest of these survivors are in the middle of the town. Didn't like that. It should have been more isolated. It should have been just Rose and the cop looking for the daughter, and maybe running into a few people along the way. But that's what it should have been. But I understand, it's like, well, for a feature film, it's like an hour. Oh, it's almost 2 hours long, I think. It's 125 minutes, so I think it's about 2 hours long, or just under 2 hours. It is kind of a long movie, and I do understand if there was just two people by themselves, it could get boring. I understand this, but it also couldn't have gotten boring, because Silent Hill's universe is so vast. You could have done so much with this universe and made so many new creatures, which they made a few new creatures, so much new lore. You could have went miles upon miles with the runtime if you really wanted to, with just her and the cop. So I didn't like that. I wish it was more of an isolated movie. The CGI effects don't hold up. They really don't. I'll give people that, because this movie doesn't get a lot of respect nowadays. It's kind of thrown off to the side, kind of forgotten. People are always like, the CGI sucks, the acting sucks, and, it's people's opinions, it's whatever. You're allowed to have your opinion, but I feel like this movie gets kind of thrown to the side too much nowadays. I think it deserves a lot more respect, because I think it's one of those video game movies that really captures the essence of the video games. But I will give you this too. The CGI does not hold up. There are certain scenes where the CGI is very dated, and I feel like they shouldn't have relied so much on digital effects, because you watch the behind the scenes, they had practical effects. There's people in costumes, there's people in full-on makeup and stuff like that, so they had practical stuff in there, but I don't know, it just didn't look good enough practically, so they just covered it up with digital stuff. Because a lot of it is CGI, and I wish it was less. I wish it was more of practical effects combined with CGI. But I will say this movie is still more practical than Revelation. Revelation, like, the whole movie is a green screen, but this, okay, the CGI does not hold up. And the last issue I have is the whole side story with Sean Bean. Him with the cop, basically giving up. It's, that whole segment is done for people who don't know Silent Hill. It's basically to give just exposition, basically. It's just there to be in the background exposition, kind of walking people through the movie. Because Sean Bean, ultimately, there's a focus on the subplot and it leads to nothing. Because all it is him going to Silent Hill, and him and Rose are kind of in alternate dimensions, so they don't see each other. It's a side plot that leads to nowhere. And it does nothing for the story. So I will give that. I will admit that. I will admit that too. But the things this movie does right is the detail to the camera angles and the energy, the essence of the video games, the way it's directed, the way it looks. This movie looks great for 2006. The environments, the way the fog is, they nailed the atmosphere and the environment of Silent Hill. The way it looks from playing the video games, they nailed that. Certain key location, like the school location, or the hospitals, or the decrepit church in the city, and how they all look different when it's switched to the hell. Basically, when everything gets switched to the hell part, when the siren goes off. That was all done very, very well. It kept very close to the video game, and they even kept the origin story to Alessa and having all that stuff going on. It is about a person looking for their missing child in Silent Hill. It follows a lot of the steps from the games, and I really appreciate that, because game movies, they didn't really do that back then. I mean, 2006, that was before a lot of game movies came out. So you had Mortal Kombat, which followed the game pretty good. You had Street Fighter, which really didn't. Mario Bros, the movie, which really didn't. You had a lot of game movies coming out that wasn't really following the games. And this and Mortal Kombat were the ones that really stuck out and followed the video games very well. So I definitely thought this movie kept the essence and the energy of Silent Hill, with also bringing a new look to the movie. The movie looks great. It's filmed perfectly. The camera angles I love. And I love it because it was really difficult to do that. Because of the way they had the sets designed and the way they had to do everything. They didn't have to do those angles. Those angles are so hard to do because you have to make them perfect. Otherwise, they don't turn out very good. They turn out very wonky. But I respect the fact that the director and the cast and crew took the extra time of day and took the extra effort to pull off these shots. Whether it's a shot from way up here and pan shots, or certain angles from the video game. Like, I swear, when you're playing the game and you compare it to the scene when she's walking down the stairs, that whole thing is shot identically to the game. And that was so cool. And that whole scene, that whole opening of Silent Hill, her going down the long stairs, at that time, this is based off the first game. I didn't play the first game at the time, so I didn't know anything about Alessa, anything about what was going on in this movie. I just thought it was the movie's storyline. But the whole way that part builds up, where she goes down the stairs, and it's pitch black, and she's in this hellish environment, and there are these demon creatures all around her. It is a very, very well done segment of the movie, and a great opening to Silent Hill, and really establishing this hell environment to this place. I also love the music. The movie's music is from the game, or there's also new stuff for the movie. And the music I thought was on point. It fit the movie. It was perfect. It was done well. A lot of great pieces of music in there, even new stuff that was not from the games. So I love that. The set design, which I was very impressed with, because you gotta remember, 2000s was when a lot of companies went to digital green screens, blue screens, and CGI for backgrounds especially. I mean, you had Star Wars, which was doing the green screen backgrounds, blue screen backgrounds. You had a lot of movies like Lord of the Rings doing a lot of green screen, blue screen, which it's great to do that because there are certain things you can do with CGI that you can't do with real sets, and I understand that. But for 2006, a time where there was not really a lot of practical set design being done, this movie has amazing attention to detail. The sets, the way the hell scenes look, the school, the hospital, the church, the town itself. A lot of these environments look great. And they're all practical. They're not green screen. They maybe have some CGI enhancements here and there, but they're not all green screen. They're practical. They're actual sets. And they're big sets, too. Because you have people running around in these giant open areas, and it's like you really realize, wow, it's all practical, it looks great. Whereas with Revelation, there's maybe about 2 practical sets in that whole movie, and the rest of it is all green screen. So that movie sucks to me. That movie is horrible. But this one, you just notice it. You're like, wow, that's all practical. That's all done on location, on set. Looks great. And I love that. I love practical sets in movies because it gives the actors something to interact with. It gives them a tool that they can use to enhance their performance. And I thought in this movie it was a good example of that. The practical set design gave it an atmosphere, added to the atmosphere. So you got good music, good direction, good camera work, good characters. I like the Rose character. The Sybil, I think, is the cop's name from the game. I like her in this movie. I believe the Andrea chick from Walking Dead is who they picked to play her. I like their whole dynamic. I like how at first she, arrests her and doesn't like her, but as the movie goes on, they work together. And the end of the movie's death scene with the Sybil cop was like haunting. That was a horrible scene. The whole Alessa backstory, seeing this movie for the first time and actually seeing the origin play out, it was a good origin story. Alessa is a good villain. The way the movie ends is kind of haunting because, in a way, Rose is still stuck in the Silent Hill universe, the parallel dimension, but the daughter is in the real world, but she's still stuck in the Silent Hill alternate dimension. Haunting ending because you realize Rose is there forever. She's not going to be able to get out. I was thinking about Silent Hill. That is very haunting. You don't know if you're going to get out of that dimension because even if you survive and you make it past these demons and you face these creatures, you don't know if you're going to even escape the universe, the dimension of Silent Hill. It's a very creative idea. And I guess I can mention this as another con because I just remembered it. This movie, I get it. I understand you want to include Pyramid Head, you want to include the nurses, you want to include pretty much all of the creatures from the first 2 games. The nurses, the fused together creatures that spit out acid. I kind of wish they used the mannequin creatures, though. That would be really cool. But I understand they wanted to use those iconic creatures. But knowing the video games, it makes no sense. Because what you find out in the games is that your mind sees, like you see these creatures as your own worst fears. So let's say you go into Silent Hill and somebody else goes to Silent Hill. You too will see different things. It's basically your inner demons coming to life. Whatever your past is, whatever your demons are, they basically get personified in Silent Hill. That's why James seen the Pyramid Head demon and nobody else did, because it was his demon. That's why in the first game, the guy in the first game seen his own demons, because it's all about the people in Silent Hill. So that, and when you put those in this movie, I get it, I know, I get it. People are like, come on, they had to put the iconic creatures. I understand that, but as a fan of the game, it makes no sense to put those in this movie, because Rose doesn't see any of these. There's no explanation why these creatures are here, except for maybe Alessa can just conjure up these demons. Like, apparently she's in control of these demons, and I guess she just randomly makes them appear. But in the games, it was more of the inner demons basically being brought to life through the characters in Silent Hill. But in the movie, it's more of just they're kind of there. So that was definitely weird. But I wouldn't say it's a huge problem. It's kind of like, I guess if you haven't played the games, it really wouldn't bother you. But if you're a fan of the games, you know the lore, you can kind of notice that when you watch the movie. But as far as more positives, there are some practical gore effects. There's literally a scene where Pyramid Head grabs a girl's skin and rips it off of her body, like de-skins her in just one swoop. That was crazy. The whole ending to the movie with Alessa's rage, just barbed wire going everywhere, but people to pieces, blood going everywhere. Very, very gory ending. Very, very gory, brutal film. Very, very haunting film. There are certain scenes in this movie that are very haunting and done well. And it also has a good suspense factor. There are good suspenseful scenes. Whenever you hear that alarm sound, you know there's trouble going to be happening. And it created great tension. It just had a good sense of vulnerability. These people, are stuck there, dealing with these like really horrible creatures and demons. It was just a really creepy environment, creepy vibe to it. It's a movie that the pacing never bothered me. I know a lot of people say it's a boring film, they say it's a long film, but I've always found the pacing to not bother me. I always thought it was a good pacing, how it was a longer movie, gave time to the origin story, gave time to establish these characters, gave time to flesh them out, gave time to these creatures. It was all equally done to where I think the runtime is very necessary to the film. It's not a bad runtime at all. But yeah, this movie, I feel like if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's an underrated film. It's been forgotten. It's been kind of thrown to the side, and not a lot of people talk about it anymore, which I think is a shame. I think it's a great film. But yeah, I love the movie a lot. I think it's a worthy adaptation to the games. But if you've seen this movie, definitely let me know your guys' thoughts on us in the comments below. I'm very curious to hear your guys' feedback about this film. But anyways, guys, that's going to be it for my discussion of Silent Hill, the movie. I really enjoy it. It's a great film and a pretty solid adaptation of Silent Hill. But anyways, thanks so much for watching, guys. Explorer 4 is out. Appreciate y'all for watching. Thanks so much. I'll see you guys later. Explorer 4 is out. Peace.